So here we are. We are back with episode number 5 of the River City Rundown. Um, we're just plugging along, just slowly plugging along and filling in the gaps of what's going on in the St. Louis scene. Mark, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's crazy going on number 5 of this episode. It seems like it was yesterday that we were starting it. It's funny. So things have definitely evolved as we've kind of gotten going. There's a lot more going on in the running world, and it's been exciting. How are you holding up?
Yeah, man. I mean, it is kind of wild. I feel like even with everything that is going on in the world, there's some sense of normalcy that's back in the outdoor event space. Even though we are having to take precautions with the Delta variant and whatnot, but I still feel like we're kind of getting back to normal here in the running world. I don't know your thoughts, but that's kind of how I feel. I think we are very lucky, very fortunate to live in a sport world where we can do the things we do mostly outdoors on some level, and it's been nice to be able to get back out with people and be safe, but get back to what we love to do with events. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that when everything turned, especially like a year and a half ago when things got canceled, we had a little bit more of a notice, I would say. And now it doesn't seem like even the world majors, like they're not canceling. I feel like a lot of events are just kind of going off, and whether that's right or wrong, I'm not the one to kind of make that choice, but I think that that's definitely, showing us a little bit more sense of normalcy, to your point. And so it selfishly, it makes, our lives a little bit easier and kind of gives us that positive distraction. So I guess I'm kind of like somewhere, kind of in a lost world with the sport right now, because it's like really exciting to see everybody coming back together. And then you obviously have a lot of things that are kind of surrounding it, and it's really this unknown. But I don't know, if I was a betting person, I would assume that, most of these events are probably going to keep going off now, just based on the fact that we're getting so close to some of these big races and they haven't been canceled.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to get on a soapbox, I fully believe that everyone has the right to make their own decisions and how they want to take care of their body. But the fact that we got an FDA approval for one of the vaccines, I think that's a big step in the right direction for us moving forward and feeling safer and better about the decisions we had to make in all of this, So yeah, I agree. I think we're in a good place, and I think we're trending the right way. And I think people are, I don't know, the people that I surround myself with are making sure that they're taking care of family and friends and themselves. And I think we're in a good place for sure. So what's up in your world, Mark? Tell me what's going on with training, fitness, athletes, coaching. Where are we at? Almost,
Man,
school's back in session, like summer's over.
I know
I know it doesn't matter to us per se, but yeah, where are you at?
yeah, things are really evolving right now, just based on the fact that we're entering fall cross country season, which is, in my opinion, one of the best times of the year. If you ran high school or cross country, in college or high school or whatever the case was, every time it turns, I would say probably about August, you just start smelling cross country in the air. So excited for that. On our end, we coach a lot of high school kids in the off season, and they're all obviously getting ready for season. So that's kind of where we're at with those folks. And then obviously a lot of Spivak training athletes have been gearing up for big fall races all over the country. There's lots of races, lots of options actually all over the world at this point, because every world major seems to be being hosted in the same block. Actually just had a handful of clients just do Pikes Peak marathon, which I had some roadies on the trails, so
I love it.
I know you'd appreciate that. And then
Yep.
we've spoke about this on our show the last couple of times, but we also launched a nonprofit, which is a racing team called Spivak Racing, and we had our debut race the other day, and we had 25 people that participated in it, and it was just great performance, and they did great. So yeah, selfishly, we're in a good spot, and just hoping to kind of keep this momentum rolling.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the all murdered out Spiewak training team showing up to Forest Park 5K. That was cool. I dig the all black. And I know there'll be a variety in years to come, but I think that's a cool look. So yeah, pumped to see that going down for you guys. I love and we talked about this in episode past, but I love the direction you're going with that, and I love the fact that you love that it's all about more teams, everyone. It's not just what you're doing. So yeah, definitely pumped to see that on your end, buddy.
I appreciate it, man. What about you? What's going on in your world on the run side and life side? I know you guys have been very busy.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. Run side, I'm coming back from back surgery, starting to feel better. Runs are starting to feel better. I did a 13 miler a couple weeks ago, just doing a recon for one of the races that I co-RD for the Ozark Trail Association, and just like that 13 miles on the OT with friends was like the in life that I needed, I think, in the running world. I didn't realize how much I missed those kind of like trail adventures that I had in the past. And, just having that day out there with them and feeling good about the run, that was huge. So that is great on my end. Things are picking up with our race, the Shippy, which is super exciting. We've got like 400 milers signed up now, 100Ks blowing up. It's super exciting. The relay, people are starting to chatter about, which gets me really excited because, I know I'm biased, but we definitely have one of the cheapest relays in the area that gives you the most bang for your buck. I love that we have a bunch of relay options, but ours is probably the newest, and I guarantee the most bang for your buck, and coordination wise, it's probably one of the easiest ones to do too. So I love when people start talking about our relay too, because it's just another good option, and there's not really a team relay option in the winter. So that gets me pumped up. The Endurance House, your podcast, the last 2 episodes have been amazing. Yeah, the Endurance House, I'm getting so much good feedback, which is awesome. The most recent episode was a crew report. So for those people who I think we've talked about on here, but the concept behind the race or my podcast is it's race reports. It's like Audible for race reports. And we've had a couple of people send in crew reports. So, doing an ultra, you've got the runner who's doing their thing, but you also have the team behind them that that's a whole day for them. It's exhausting. So I've had a couple of crew reports where a member of a person's crew has talked about their audio report from the day, which have been really neat. So yeah, things are I don't know, trending well. I'm having a blast doing all of it, and it's really neat being able to, and I'm sure you feel this way about your podcast, just being able to share people's stories and getting feedback, and knowing that the thing you put out there is helping other people is it's a great feeling. So yeah,
it's awesome seeing just how consistent you've been with everything that you're doing. I think that's what's so exciting about it. I just, you're always pumping something fun out, and, just the energy of what you're doing with Arch City, and obviously with your podcasts, and, keeping up with our, River City Rundown, and then obviously organizing a race, raising a family, being a husband, and starting your job. I mean, you got a lot of, lot of things rolling. So kudos to you for doing that. I mean, I think it's a good example for everybody in the community. If you love the sport and you're passionate about it, there's ways to get involved regardless of how busy you are.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I think that's why we connect, because we both probably put more on our plates than we know what to do with it sometime, but we figure it out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of dive in. We were a week back due to planning errors on my on my end. So, on the trail side, we actually had a decent amount of events popping in, which was cool. And I'm not even going to break into the event that I helped RD this past weekend. I'll do a little bit on it because it just happened, but we'll save it for next week. But this past weekend, I helped out with the Ozark Trail Association's race. It's called the Three-Legged Monster. And the concept behind it is a runner and a mountain biker start at the same time at two different locations, and they finish back at Bass River Resort. And then they get in a canoe and they paddle from Bass River to Onondaga. So it's kind of like a adventure race, but adventure racing, you typically do all the events together. So you split them up at the beginning and then they come together. So anyway, that's what I did this past weekend, and I'll save the full recap on how people did and everything last weekend. But Mark, I know you know this feeling of putting on an event, and I'm a small piece in this puzzle with this event, meaning there's 4 of us that kind of RD'd. But everyone afterwards was like, this was so much fun. So that, just with any event you do, when you get immediate feedback, of course we screwed things up. Of course we're going to learn from mistakes and get better for next year. But we put this race on with about 2 months of registration, and we got 30 teams, which was
awesome.
Amazing. And, the Ozark Trail Association is one of those organizations locally, nonprofit, that does so much work and also doesn't have a ton of funding. So the volunteers in the organization is just these amazing people who pour their hearts and souls into the trails that more or less span half of our state. I'm talking 400 miles of trails with I wouldn't say very little funding, but they deserve a lot more money and funding than that they get, and especially with how hard these people work. So it was an honor to be a part of it, and we'll dive into results next week. But that's kind of the top of my mind on the trail and ultra aside. It was so exciting to see people, sign up for an inaugural event, which is always tricky because you don't know what you're getting yourself into, and be finished with it and just tell us how cool it was. So anyway, Three-Legged Monster, watch out for it next year, because I think we literally created a monster. So it could be a big fun event next year. But we also had a new event from Fleet Feet called the Babbler 8 Miler, which was held out at Babbler State Park. We've talked about it in the past. Jules does an amazing job with her events. Babbler State Park is a place that I haven't run on the trails out there, but I know that it's no joke. It's very hilly out there. I think it's a little bit more of an equestrian park, but from all accounts, it was an amazing event. People had a great time, and I know that it was a challenging event. So just kind of breaking it down, top 5 on the men's side. A lot of names I don't know, which is kind of typical for a Fleet Feet race. They pull a lot from the road scene, which is great because you get fast people, or just not even fast people, just people that run roads who follow a Fleet Feet community and want to maybe dip their toes into a trail race. So there's a lot of entry-level trail runners that show up to a Fleet Feet. So you had Derry Costa, who ran a 101, Matthew Davidson, 102, so right behind him, Ted Spetnagle, 103.30, Nathan Liebetrue, 104.40, and then Nathan Kingery. That was your top 5 overall on the men's side. So, 8 miles, 7:38 pace, and knowing how fat or how hilly Babbler is, that's cruising for 8 miles. On the women's side, you had Courtney Sweeten, who took the overall win, 109. Claire Henry, 111, so a 2-minute gap there. Jennifer Coverdale, 116. Emily Hargis, 118, and then Carly Roach, 118.33. So, Courtney kind of took that one out and held on. Jennifer Coverdale, I know that name from a lot of the trail races. 47 years old, just still crushing it. I believe she's done well in a lot of the Fleet Feet races. So it's cool to see her still crushing it. And, a 8-mile race in August or late July, I think it might have been early August. That's about a good distance for that time of year out on the trails if you want to run fast. It's kind of hard to get after distances further than that in the Missouri heat and humidity. We followed that race up with a race that I actually participated in myself. So this was my second race back post-surgery. I did the Lead Belt 8-miler. So this is actually a pretty neat event, similar to Three-Legged Monster in some levels, to where they have mountain biking and an 8 and a 3-mile trail race too. So cool thing is you can do both. So if you do the trail run and then the mountain bike run, they have an overall award for people who do both races, which is kind of neat. So it gets people to come down for the weekend. This is hosted at St. Joe Park, which is, southern, kind of south of Farmington.
It's a great park.
Yeah, oh my gosh. It's a beautiful park. Also a great park for like off-roading, which I'd never been there. And the trail was, let's just put it this way. I will go back to this race for sure. One, because Mark Grumke, the race director, is amazing as a human and as a race director. He's a great guy. Two, it is a great entry-level trail race. It's fast. It's not super technical, not a lot of hills, but it's scenic and fun, and they do a really great job. I would definitely put this on your summer trail racing list for sure. I had an absolute blast. Personally, for myself, I had a goal of finishing in 120. That was just something I threw out there. The pre-injury Ryan would have probably done a lot faster than what I did, but I had not run 3 miles for myself without hiking more than 3 miles. So kind of my goal going into the race was I want to run the whole thing. I don't care what time that means. I'm not going to hike any hills. I want to slowly run the whole thing. And, I ended up running an hour and 10 minutes, which was way above what I thought I'd be able to do. I ran the whole way. So I was super pumped about it. And I didn't do a lot of research before going down there. I was just going, one of the reasons I was going down because the Ozark Trail Association had a tent for our race, the Three-Legged Monster. So I just wanted to go down and support. And I went down and I came back in love. Something that I'll probably go back and do every year because I had such a blast. But enough about me, into the people who really crushed it out there. And people, I think St. Charles people will know this name, but Mike Barrow. Mark, I don't know if you know Mike. He is a
great guy.
Yeah, an animal on the mountain bike and fast as shit. I mean, if you look at any trail segments out in St. Charles, Mike's name's probably at the top, if not top 3 on almost every trail over there. He came away with the win in 54:57, so sub 7-minute pace, which is just bonkers. He had some competition though. Byron Johnson was on his heels, 55:22. Omar Murrow which he's a local guy down there, ran 56:42. Gary Swearingen came in at 58:36. Gary's a beast on the mountain bike and the trails. And then Kerry Eldridge, good buddy of mine, came in at 12 seconds over the hour mark. So that was your top 5 on the women or the men's side. I'm going to throw a name out here, and Mark, you probably know her. She came in 4th place overall, 57:44 in her first trail race. Lindsay Husted, also, I think most people might know her locally as Lindsay Zeiler. She runs for Runwell Racing over on the Illinois side. Could possibly be the nicest human being I've ever met. She's so nice. She's amazing. And she just started getting into the trail stuff. Her and Jamie have run a couple of times. Yikes, watch out. She is cousins with Jackie Purtle Hall. So by default, she's fast. But she is so nice, and it was really cool to see her do really well in her debut trail race. Followed up by maybe the equivalent of nicest human being ever, but also a badass mountain biker, Tina Murtha. Mm-hmm. Tina came in at 105:40 or 54, and then Danielle Karen 110, Katie Mullins 115, and Hannah Hughes, who I believe helps
Fleet Feet, right?
Yep, Jules with Fleet Feet Racing. I kind of rounded out your top 5 on the women's side. Like I said, put Leadbelt on your map. It's an amazing race. People should definitely go down there. Great park too. It's just a really beautiful area. I'm going to save my Alpine Shop recap for next month because we have one more week left this week. But go ahead, Mark.
Well, can we confirm that you ran in a tornado last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yes, we can.
What was that experience like? I mean, that just seemed insane.
So, and this is where us crazy trail runners might shine through here. It was nuts, no doubt.
It was a crazy storm.
It was crazy. I mean, we started at 6:15, and 10 minutes in, it unloaded. You know, the wind started coming, the rain. I mean, it just downpoured on us for, you know, the last 2.5 miles of the race, or 2.25 miles of the race. I looked at the guys that I was running with when the wind picked up, and I said, hey, we really have to pay attention for cracking and branches or trees, and be careful. So I put that out there, but I will tell you that I don't know that I've had more fun in a race in my life.
which I assumed that was probably the case, you know, from your perspective, just because you guys are all a bunch of nut jobs. But dude, like, there were so many trees that came down. I couldn't have imagined like being in that storm in the woods. I mean, that definitely probably was freaking people out.
100%. I mean, you know, we were, I would say maybe and I'm definitely not front of the pack anymore, but maybe front 25%. I think we were lucky that we got out of the woods earlier than most people. Just the way that Alpine Shop has set up their start finish now, that the races end a lot on road. So I'll throw that in there for anyone that's been who's a road runner who's questioning the getting in a trail. Like, this is the series to dip your toes into it to see if you enjoy it. And now the way that they've set it up, there is a significant amount of road running in it as well. So it's much faster for the road people, and it's almost like a split of road and trail, where in years past it had been, you know, almost 100% trail. You get a decent amount of road at the beginning, and then most finishes you're running at least 3/4 of a mile on the road. So that being said, you know, we got out of the woods early, but people were I mean, tree branches were falling, trees were falling around people. Towards the end, there was a tree that came down right with the lead pack on the road. That
No.
had it if it fell one way, had it fallen the other way, it would have hit a power line. The power line would have gone across the road, and we probably all would have been stuck in the back of Castlewood for hours until, whoever would have come to
Oh
clean
my
it up.
God.
So it was absolutely wild. But I had, like, once it started raining and people were scared to run on the trails, I started bombing the downhills in the dark and had so much fun. So yeah, this is the best in my opinion, and we'll talk about this more in the next episode. Alpine Shop Trail Series is the greatest running event in St. Louis, in my opinion. Just the 4 weeks of the summer, they do such a good job of the after party and giveaways, and it feels every year, it feels like this homecoming of, like, just it combines a lot of road and trail people together, and I don't know, it's so much fun. I encourage anyone to do it, but I won't go too deep. There it is. We'll dive into our next trail and ultra event, which was another inaugural event. So a couple of inaugural new events that have popped up in the July-August timeframe, which is the Watershed 3 and 6 hour event in Illinois. This is put on by Rich Lures, who we've talked about in the past, but good buddy of mine who also does some race timing in the area. And he wanted to put on a 3 and 6 hour event over on the Illinois side, and I believe Edwardsville. So 3 and 6 hour event around a little loop over there. These events are events that I encourage road runners to look into a little more. It gives people the ability to see what they can do in a certain amount of time, right? Where, our 10Ks, half marathons or marathons, for example, Go St. Louis, I believe the marathon cutoff is 5:30. So and maybe it's 6 hours, I could be wrong on that, but like you only, if you don't make a certain time, you're done, right? So these events are cool because for someone who maybe is trying to hit a half marathon distance, 6 hours might be what they need to do to be able to make that happen. So, and they're typically on paved paths or roads or something like that. So it's a good gateway event for someone to maybe push their limits and see how far they can go in a certain amount of time. So anyway, with the 3 hour on the men's side, we had James Pratt, who kind of blew away the competition, 22.2 miles in the 3 hours. He was followed up by Evan Wilson, who had 19.2, Zach Vasulis, who had 18.2, Joe Ferreira, 17.2, and Kevin Cox, who had 17.2. On the women's side, you had Jennifer Cox, so it looks like, maybe not. I was going to say, is that a husband and wife combo? Not. I don't think that's the case. So Jennifer won it with 17.2, Amanda Hessel 16.2, Amanda Wendling 15.2, Krista Kloss 15.2, and Jill Sharp 15.2. So pretty cool to see those people cranking out those miles in 3 hours in just brutal heat and humidity. On the 6 hour distance, you had Tyler Massey 36.4. So he won that thing by 2 miles in the 6 hours over Keith Zeitz, Kevin Yoon, Colby Garmin, and Jordan Gonzalez, all kind of hanging in the 34.3 to 31.3 miles. And then Mark, someone that is near and dear to your heart, Jacqueline Summer, she won the women's with 31.3. And I'm pretty sure she ran that like when she got home from like 2 weeks of traveling the night before. So
sounds about right.
Yeah, pretty impressive. performance by Jacqueline. She's one of the best. Just a great person. Followed up by Anna Thompson with 30.3. So it was a tight race there. Lisa Williams, 29.3. Karen Weber and Marie Walker, 27.3. So, yeah, that women's race was definitely tight the whole way through. So, cool event. And we'll just follow that event up with one that I believe was the week before, which is a kind of gold standard in the area with Get Your Butt Kicked. It's a slugs event locally. It's a 6-hour event that goes from 6 to midnight. One of the cool things about this race is that you have and don't quote me on this, but I think it's like a 2.5 mile loop that everyone does. And then you have the option in the last hour. Like if you can't go out and do the 2.5, they have this short loop and it's maybe 0.4 miles. It's something really short that you can start doing. So the neat thing is like the last hour of this race is just pure mayhem because you have 100 people doing this tiny little loop and just trying to rack up as many miles as they can before the time runs out. So Get Your Butt Kick is always a blast. It's at Route 66 Park. Once again, same as Watershed. These are great events for people to kind of test their limits and see what they can do for a certain amount of time, where you can run for 6 hours or you could come out and run for 2 and call it a day. Either way, you can kind of test yourself. So Chris McPherson is a beast. It's the guy that won it. He had the record before. He came in calling his shots and he performed, man. This guy, 46.075 miles in 6 hours. And he was just a metronome the whole day, just cranking. I mean, 47.074 miles.
They're in like 23. That's like what, 23 and a half miles for a split in half.
Yeah.
So,
it's bonkers.
Yeah. So he was running was it like 740 pace? Was it?
Yeah. It was just under sub 8 pace. I mean, just,
oh my gosh,
and that's with, stopping and walking into aid stations. So
yeah. Wow.
It's super impressive. Now the guy that finished second, and I'll butcher his name, but it's Cyan Cow. This dude, no one knew him. He showed up. He had a cell phone and your Mark's classic basketball short style. You dig your basketball shorts. With a pocket, he had a cell phone in his pocket, his headphones up in his ears, and this dude cranked out almost 42 miles in 6 hours. And it's kind of the ultra world thing where like some guy shows up and you're like, oh, this guy's not going to do anything, and then 42 miles later he comes in second place. I mean, the guy was a beast all day. Followed up by Andy Emerson, who's just an animal out of Columbia, Missouri. Andy is always going to be in the top 10 of nearly every race that he does. Dimitro Sawchuk, this is Dimitro's jam. He's a super nice guy. I think he was trying to get to 42 miles, but came up with 40.798. The heat and humidity at this race is always bonkers, so it's impressive that anyone does what they do. Jeremy Greither came in 5th at 40.465. So big gap from that 1st to 5th, but Chris was just on another level. On the women's side, you had Sarah Hughes, who 35.948. She kind of ran away with it. You had Anna Zielinski, who came in at 32.76. Anna Thompson right behind her with 32. Jen Doyes with 31.098 and Rita Short with 31.098 as well. So kind of tight after you got past Sarah at the beginning, but all those ladies, just kept crushing the whole day. It was fun. We were out there and that's a blast of a race to hang out with, especially at the end of it when everybody's just flying around in loops. So yeah, that is the trail side of the program. Mark, talk to me about Forest Park Forever, because I
I
know
feel like
that
you can't even. I feel like you can't even. Come up with anything after that. You guys were just stacked.
we had a lot going on,
Busy
and I
time
know,
of the year, right, for trails.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we're. I think trails are, maybe there would have been more 5Ks, significant 5Ks, kind of in the summer months
Uh-huh.
pre-COVID, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the trail community came together and was like, we can put on some events in the summertime that make sense. And you'll see like two of the events that were in that list are brand new events, right?
Yeah.
So um, I think people are figuring out, summer's brutal here, right?
It's hard. Yeah. I mean,
But there's ways to put some shorter or events that start at night together that um, people can get fired up for and train on. So
yeah, I love the concept of the like the get your butt kicked race or the race that your buddy put on in Illinois. I mean, I think those are cool, and it seems like it's a fun hangout for people. Just to go out there, see their friends run for several hours. Drink beers, eat food. So,
right.
you know, good. What would you guys call it? Good backyard style race, right?
Yeah. I mean, it really is. It's, I think you see this a little bit on the marathon, some marathons where they do like the shorter loops more for qualifying,
Yeah.
right? That's what those races are, more or less.
Yeah.
They're just a way to get you to a distance, and have a ton of support during it. So they are definitely fun events and great ways to, like, for anyone that's running a road to have motivation over and over. It's like having a cheer station every mile, which is fires anybody up. So
No, that's a good point. Well, with us on the roads, the Forest Park Forever 5K was, I would say, probably the most significant race that I can think of that was kind of out the last couple months. I mean, obviously we had Napa Mile that we kind of recapped in July, and there were a couple other 5Ks, but we've really kind of been pretty quiet on the roads recently. But this race, I love this event. My business, Spew Out Training, we always sponsor this race. I think it's an important race for people to do in St. Louis. It's just to give people perspective. It's put on by Forest Park Forever, and Forest Park Forever is the nonprofit that really just does everything to keep Forest Park as beautiful and safe and great as it is. So I think the money goes to a really good spot. A lot of us use Forest Park, on a daily basis. So I feel like everybody at some point should either give money to the park, to the foundation, or sign up for a race like this, because we really get the best kind of steal, which is how nice of a place it is, not just from the running perspective, but for the Muni and for their new playscape. And just, I mean, honestly, there's not many cities in the country that have the big, this huge metropolitan park with all these kind of free amenities and just great stuff to do. So that's my gist on why I think everybody should be interested in this event. And then from the perspective of racing, it was a great race.
Can I jump in on I just want to like hammer your point down. So since our last show, and this is one of the things I love about the running community is, we were on a podcast based out of Chicago. There was an Army guy who, awesome guy, George, who was coming in town. So the host reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a buddy that's coming in St. Louis for an event for 4 days. Do you want to run with him or show him around?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he was staying at Union Station. So the first place I said to him, I said, "Let's meet at Forest Park," and we did the loop. We did the Forest Park loop. And like, I felt like I was this tour guide, and I toured him through the whole park and explained everything that was going on there. And he was just like, "Holy cow, you guys have this in the middle of your city." It's like, yeah, it's a absolute gem. Like, we are so fortunate to have what we have here. And I think he ran a couple other. He he ran the day before. He ran from the arch north on the Greenway, and came and ran Forest Park, and was just like, I was scared out of my mind. And this, we're talking like an Army guys. Like I felt like I shouldn't have been running where I was running on that Greenway. I was like, yeah, it's Forest Park is
a little safer.
The place to be.
It's, the thing about the Greenway is it's
awesome.
it's a nice trail, and it's on the water, and it's pretty when you're not by the industrial side. I mean, I think it's a great trail. It's just that you don't see anybody out there.
Right.
So you're just out there. You're just in the middle of a city. It's like, to his point. I mean, it's a little unwary, but no, I mean, I think it's always fun taking somebody that's not from here to Forest Park, and people move away all the time, and they always say that they miss Forest Park, and that always is, to me, that always is just a reminder of just how good we have it, Sure. And so, but the race itself was a fast one. I mean, I think this was the first opportunity for a lot of people to run a competitive 5K. They do a unique course. Most of the 5Ks in Forest Park always start at the upper Muni parking lot and runs kind of a, the same similar loop near towards the visitor center and on those kind of inner roads there, where this race actually goes all the way over to Art Hill and runs in front of the Grand Basin. So it has some cool views to it. It's a really pretty course, but it's also, I'd say it's pretty fast, except for, in a mile and a half, you climb a very big hill to get to the art museum. So depending on how fast you got out that first mile is how well you do in that race. So for the perspective of our team, that's definitely something we talked a lot about, and it worked out well for us. But just kind of reading through the results, there was a surprise person who showed up to the starting line, and that was Omar Abdi, who is a 2:19 marathoner, very successful athlete from Running Niche. I would have assumed, I did not realize he was racing. So Bob, if you're listening, kudos to you for well played. He showed up and ended up running 15:32 on that course, which is for him, that's a very respectable time. But for the course and doing it by yourself, I mean, even more impressive. So that was really cool to see that. Adam Walker was second place, who is a runner for St. Louis University. He was representing Running Niche that day, and I guess their season hasn't started yet. He broke 16. And then Spivak Racing, little shameless plug, but Kyle Hill and Zach Greasy, they both ran 16:11, 16:13. The guy who was in fifth place, Kevin Kloss, came down from Iowa. He runs for Running Wild. Really cool group up in Davenport. They just built out kind of an elite team as well. So he was really just kind of dialed into the running scene. And I guess he was in town to watch the Cardinals play with his dad. I guess they come down in the summertime, and he was looking for a 5K and found it. So that was pretty cool to just kind of talk to him afterwards.
Yeah, that's cool.
And to see how well he obviously ran, kind of on short notice. And then Mike Fussner, I think he's also a Spivak Racing athlete, but I think what's so impressive about him is that he is 46 years old and he ran a 16:27 5K. So, I mean, that's to itself. Got to give a shout out to Steve Portis. He ran 17:33. He is 50 years old, and he typically wins this race. We've kind of recruited the front of the race the last couple of years, so there's just been more competition. But he's an absolute boss, and that was to round it out. And then Jeff Hill, another Spivak Racing guy, broke 18 as well, ran 17:36. I want to say there was probably, there was 10 people under 18. So in a 5K on the roads in St. Louis, if you run low 17s, you have a chance to win. So just the fact that many people were under 18 is pretty cool. I mean, it's if you compare it to what it is nationwide. I mean, granted, it's you're running in the heat and humidity, and it's on a relatively fast, but there is some tough challenges to it. It's not crazy times, but at the same time, it's competitive, and it's competitive for road racing, which makes it fun. Kayla Klosterhoff, who is another Spivak Racing athlete, was the winner. She ran 18 flat. She ran a 2:46 marathon. She was 1 minute off qualifying for the trials. So she's getting back into it. She had an injury this past year, and she's just been, super hungry to kind of get back on the roads and kind of prove herself. So it's really cool to see her just have a really successful first race back. I think if you can run 18 flat in your first race back after, quite some time, you've got some good days ahead of you. And then I'm just even looking down here she was well ahead on the female side. Actually, the second runner on the women's side was a Spivak Racing athlete. This was Laura Filla, who is an awesome runner. She's been trying to break 20 minutes for a very long time. Ran it 1950. I guess that's what it says on her result here. She's out in Eureka. She owns her own personal coaching business. She's a great coach, really just inspirational person. If you're looking for a good coach out in the Eureka area, I know she's been actually working on trying to put together some groups out that way too. So cool to kind of see that represented, and really just across the whole board. I mean, there was some really, really fast times, just into the relation of what a normal year is. So I think that was what was really cool about it. Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to Mr. Andrew Barlosmeyer, because he ran the race and I thought he was a trail guy. So it was cool to see Andy taking after his cousin Amos, who's an Olympian. Yeah. Got a little bit of inspiration. So a lot of successful results across the board. And I think the biggest key takeaway was just that it was an opportunity for us all to come together and be together as a group. And that's been something that we've obviously all been lacking, especially on the roads this past year.
For sure. Yeah. Pictures. It was cool to see that many people outboarding that event, for sure.
That's the best part about it. It's just you're kind of saying that with the Alpine Shop. It's what makes it so fun is that you see it's the homecoming of runners in the area and things like that. And the Forest Park Forever race is kind of the same theme too, because I think a lot of people who you see locally obviously have some type of affiliation with either running in the park or they appreciate the organization or whatever the case is. So that makes it fun as well. I got to give a shout out to all the kids in the kids race. I was the bunny, the rabbit for both kids races, from ages 3 to 6 years old, and then 6 to 12 years old. Shout out to the girl in the second wave that my buddy Zach said he had never seen me run that fast in my life before. She took the race out like I swear we were at a world record through the 200-meter mark. If you're out there listening to this, I don't know how old you are. I'd assume she was probably 9 or 10 years old. She didn't have a smile on her face. She was
hammering.
She was intense. Still a little bit upset with her that she took it out as quick as it did because pace didn't hold on. So we all did. We had to kind of pick up the pieces and finish the race. So don't want to give myself too much credit, but I hung in there and led these little kids to some personal bests in the kids quarter mile dash. So no big deal, but that made the event even more that special.
There's nothing better than kids, especially and you probably know this better than I do, but turkey trots, the young kids, they hammer the first
it's amazing
half mile, and then
I love it. It's so funny to me because people are always like, you're a coach, can't you just tell them? And I used to coach these little kid programs. We had 80 kids on our team by the end of it, and it was a blast to do it. But I could give the most instructions, whatever the case was, and they're not going to learn. You have to learn by blowing up on the course and having a horrible, miserable, way to the finish line. That's how you learn how to be a smarter runner. But kudos to these kids. So that's all I can really think of on the road side. If I'm missing something, you kind of fill me in. But coming up though is just to give you guys some plugs. Run for the Hills is in September. That's a kind of staple South St. Louis road race. That's a fun one to do if you're looking for something cool, kind of unique. That's put on by, I want to say, the Neighborhood Association of Francis Park, potentially. Okay. I could be wrong on that, but that area right there, that's who hosts it. I'm hosting a cross-country race for adults on October 10th at Wilmore Park in South City. So if you want to run cross-country and you want to line up and see how fast you are on grass, come join us. We're going to have teams from Running Niche. We're trying to get some other teams locally in the area. So a couple of them outside the area we're trying to recruit as well. So that's going to be kind of a fun team component thing, but also individuals. And then Halloween I saw was announced. So Go St. Louis did announce a race. They're going to be out in Eureka this year. So it will be a different course, different event than they've done in the past. I think it's going to be a little bit of trail, a little bit of road. I guess not trail, sorry, gravel, crushed rock. But they have a 5K, 10K, and a half marathon. And that's kind of, I would say the other bigger event, obviously, of the fall. And it'll be different this year, not having it downtown. I think Eureka will be a good spot, and I think it'll be cool to expose that side of town. But selfishly, I think it will be a little bit disappointing not to have a cool race downtown. But I think that's just the nature of where we're at right now with COVID and things.
Yeah, I totally with you. We don't know the course for that race, but I love Eureka, and I know that there's options to make a cool race out there. But yeah, it's a little sad that it's not going to be downtown where it has been. But also, as someone who's worked with Go St. Louis, I understand the struggles of trying to put races on downtown as well.
It's honestly like, I'll just say this, I think that, choose my words nicely, but I would like to see St. Louis as a whole just be more supportive of the community. I know that they think that, a few thousand people is not a lot of people to them. But the reality of it is it's really positive exposure for the city. It's a really good thing. And cities that are thriving are actually huge proponents of these kind of events.
Yeah, they're supporting these events.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's to me, it's we're not as big as a Cardinal baseball game. And so their whole thing is, well, Cardinals are here every weekend and, they get X amount of people. But I guess my frustration with it is just that I think that St. Louis I love St. Louis, and I'm saying this because I'm a diehard St. Louis person. But you want to know why we're behind everybody else and why we're not making any changes? For that freaking reason right there is we can't even get excited about bringing people downtown for health and wellness. And I think in this time and this day and age, if we've learned anything about living through a pandemic, is you have to be a healthy person. And so I would love to see St. Louis kind of get a little more behind that. And I don't know what that will take. But perhaps Tashara Jones is a big marathon runner or a potential one. So maybe we'll start sending her letters about just running and see if we can get her excited about it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally with you. It's, it was sad when I was there trying to convince city dwellers or businesses that what we're trying to do with the course is only beneficial to you guys in terms of exposure. Mm-hmm. And man, our city just
they don't even understand how much money there is in the running community. I hate to say that, but it's there's a lot of I would say well-off people who compete in fitness events. And so I always think that too is, a lot of people, they kind of shine, but there's a lot of, obviously money's not everything, but there's a lot of good people as well that they're shying away from. So that's my thoughts on it. Not angled at anybody particular, more of just
it's just unfortunate. I mean, that's what it is. Yeah. And I do think that there will be a fun, downtown Eureka. I love it. I love the little old town. I think the event could be really neat, but I also think that, unfortunately our city just doesn't get behind it. And, an event that should be downtown, and I 100% think that it should be downtown, is not anymore. And that's just kind of sad, and it is what it is.
Kudos to them for obviously putting it on and keeping the tradition alive. So that's it. Totally. I'm sure that will be Eureka seems like kind of a spooky town, right? A little bit Halloween themed out there with some pumpkin patches and everything. So, I'm looking forward to this fall, man. I'm excited to dive into more races as they come, and I'm proud of you, man. You're doing a lot of great stuff, and hopefully you can come on next show a little bit and tell us a little bit more about Shippy and, how people can kind of get involved in such as we get closer to that date. Cause I know that, it'll be cool to kind of expose your event to people around the town. Cause I know there's a lot of people that probably don't know about it yet that would love to participate in some shape or form.
Yeah. I mean, we had a great first year, and then now we're 2 years, almost 3 years past because of COVID and life and changes in dates. I do think it's going to be one of the bigger events in the area eventually. And if it's not, I think it's one of the unique events in the area for what it is. And maybe we can chat more about it next episode. I do want to dip into a couple of the stuff that are coming up on the trail side. And we'll talk about this next episode for sure. But the last race for the Alpine Shop series is Thursday of this week, and I will dive deep into that. The Alpine Shop does an amazing job of recapping every week. It's amazing. But we also have a couple other races that are on the calendar coming up in September. So Lewis and Clark, which is Core Discovery Trail Race, which is Track Club's, I think, original trail race, is on September 4th. Selfishly, Labor Day weekend races always fall off the radar for me because we are lake people, so we're never in town. Kind of bummed that the Track Club moved that to a Labor Day race. But that being said, if you are in town, it's a great race. Lewis and Clark's a great trail. They do a great job. I think there's a 5 and an 8 mile or 5 and a 13 mile distance there. Amazing race. If you guys are looking for something kind of leading into the fall there. Also, the Mark Twain Trail Summit. It's hosted by the Slugs. It's down at Berryman Campground. It is literally just a training run day. And the Slugs cook for you guys on Saturday after you're done with the run. People camp on Friday night. Some people camp Saturday night. It's just a big hangout. You can run the 26-mile loop of Berryman, which is amazing, or you can do out and backs or Friday night runs. There's just a whole lot there. If you just look up Mark Twain Trail Summit on Facebook, you'll see event invites for that. That's a great one too. But other than that, yeah, next episode, we're probably going to have a lot to talk about leading into the fall for sure. Not a ton of events between now and then necessarily, but we're going to really be gearing up for a lot of stuff to come through in late September, early October, November. So, and to be honest, I'm excited for fall. I don't know about you, but I'm over the heat and humidity. I'm ready for some color changes and those like 50 degree mornings and just like low humidity. Come to me. I'm excited for it.
It'll be definitely something to look forward to, getting some cooler weather. But first, heat advisory this week. So
yeah, we're almost there. Just
everyone
can survive the next 3 days. We'll probably be good the rest of the month. All right, my man. Well,
this is great.
Number 5 down the drain.
Awesome stuff.
Nailed it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you guys soon.